Buenos días, profesora, bienvenida. Muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros el día de hoy para esta ponencia.
Buenos días, profesora. Gracias nuevamente. En un minutito comenzamos.
Muchísimas gracias.
Josué, ¿estás listo por ahí?
Sí, Héctor, espero tu indicación.
Ok, gracias.
Daremos inicio en breve, estaremos empezando aproximadamente a las 11:10, ya que estamos esperando a que el resto de chicos puedan reincorporarse a la reunión para que todos estén presentes. Muchas gracias por su espera. Jessica,
The president of COPE committee wants to say something, but he's muted, I guess.
thank you for saying so.
El Consejo de SEO.
Delegados, los invitamos a prender sus cámaras para que puedan estar presentes con nosotros en esta ponencia. Delegates, we invite you to turn your cameras on to keep present during this conference.
Distinguidos delegados y autoridades presentes, es un honor para nosotros recibir a la maestra Rochi Michelle Nájar Castilla. Les recordamos que pueden acceder a la traducción activa al español durante esta sesión. Académica, docente y gestora educativa mexicana, especializada en el análisis histórico y las expresiones culturales contemporáneas. Es licenciada en Relaciones Internacionales y maestra en Estudios Humanísticos por el TEC de Monterrey. Además, es candidata a doctora en Historia del Pensamiento por la Universidad Panamericana. Actualmente, se desempeña como directora de entrada para la Escuela de Ciencias Sociales y Gobierno en el TEC de Monterrey, Campus Estado de México. En esta función, lidera la estrategia de acompañamiento, mentoría y desarrollo académico de los estudiantes de nuevo ingreso en las licenciaturas de Derecho, Economía, Relaciones Internacionales y Gobierno y Transformación Pública. Cuenta con una sólida perspectiva humanística y enfoca sus líneas de estudio y docencia en áreas críticas como historia occidental del siglo XX, historia de la diplomacia cultural mexicana y política global. Disciplinas que le permiten conectar los procesos sociohistóricos con las realidades actuales. Su perfil destaca por su liderazgo institucional, rigor intelectual y un firme compromiso con la excelencia y la formación de profesionales con alto sentido crítico. A continuación, le cedo la palabra al presidente de Munich Association, Héctor Gantés Hernández.
Thank you so much, dear Josh. Now it's time to present to our special guest, but in English for international delegates, Rosy Michelle Nájar Castilla, a Mexican academic, professor, and educational administrator. She specializes in historical analysis and contemporary cultural expressions. She holds a bachelor's degree in international relations and a master's degree in humanities from TEC de Monterrey, and is a doctoral candidate in the history of thought at University Panamericana. She currently serves as director of admissions for the School of Social Sciences and Government at TEC de Monterrey, State of Mexico campus. In this role, she leads the strategy for supporting, mentoring, and developing the academic programs of incoming students in law, economics, international relations, and government and public transformation. She possesses a strong humanistic perspective and focuses his research and teaching of critical areas such as 20th century Western history, the history of Mexican cultural diplomacy, and global politics, disciplines that allow her to connect social historical processes with current realities. Her profile is distinguished by her institutional leadership, intellectual rigor, and a firm commitment to educational excellence and the development of professionals with a strong critical sense. Thank you so much for being here with us, Maestra Mich Nájar. You have the floor.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I am so grateful to have been invited to this amazing event. And well, let's begin. Thank you for that incredible opening. So welcome, everyone. We're going to talk today about history. As my students already refer, I am a history teacher. So I'm going to focus a little bit on how or why is history so important to understand our future, but moreover, why the key of solving the answers, the questions, the problems, the challenges that we are facing nowadays is hidden in history, okay? We think our modern global challenges are unique. We think we are alone. We truly believe that what we are facing now is the most complicated challenge the world has ever come around with. But our ancestors already left us the blueprints to survive this. We just have to open the vault. Let's try to do that today. I'm going to share, I hope I can, my presentation. Let me, it's here. So. Okay, please let me know if you can see
Yes.
it.
We can see your
Okay.
presentation.
Okay, great. So let me close this and this. Okay. I think we're good. Here, let me go a little bit back because, okay, that's it. Okay, so I'm gonna stop here. Imagine if we could go back 100 years into the if we could go 100 years into the future to solve problems that we have today. That would be amazing. Maybe we could find the answers there. Maybe in 100 years they will see to the back and they will say, well, it was not that bad. Okay, but we can't do that. But what we can do is go into our past. We can go 100 years into our past or 1,000 years into our past, and it works exactly the same. The answers are there. Right now, we face crises that feel entirely new. We have climate change, we have global pandemics, we have artificial intelligence, and we think we are the first humans to stand on the edge of that cliff, but we are not. The ghosts of our ancestors have already solved riddles that we are fighting today. We just have to let us, give us those codes or read those codes that we have forgotten. Look at your screen right now. We are locked in different time zones. I can see just a little bit of what I can get to read here of the participants. We have different continents, different cultures, but as students, you all share the exact weight on your shoulders. We are constantly being asked, what are you doing to fix the broken world we're living in? Adults tell you that our global crises are completely new and that you have to invent the future from scratch. We are wrong. The blueprint to fix our future is hidden in the history of the very countries you're sitting in right now. Today, we are studying history. We are not just analyzing it. We are weaponizing it to save our tomorrow. Probably most of you can identify that character there. If you can't, don't worry. It's a remastered picture of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, who, if you know a bit, remember a bit of your history classes, he is the guy that caused World War I, according to a lot of historians, right? We always say that, and when I ask my students how or why did World War I happen, and everyone answers because a guy killed another guy, and well, that's it. It's not like that. Okay, I try to reinterpret things in a far more complicated way because wars can happen because one person killed another one. Okay, that is unfortunate, but it is not the cause of a war. So history is not a collection of dead facts. It is a user manual for the present. Understanding history provides data, patterns, and context necessary to tackle modern global challenges. History acts as a laboratory of human behavior, showing which solutions succeed to which fail. What can we do with this? Okay, what answers can we find in history? For example, border disputes, stem for colonial mapping decisions, economic inequality traces back to systematic trade structures, geopolitical alliances rely on decades of shared trust. Modern institutions such as United Nations carry historical biases and limitations. We can also identify cyclical patterns. Pandemics, for example, economic crashes, populism, climate shifts. Okay, we can evaluate past solutions. There we can find the answers. We're going to see examples in a moment. Okay, so history tells us a lot of our present, and the answers to fix a lot of the things that we are going on are there in history. The problem is that sometimes politicians, policymakers don't know history or disregard it. Okay, understanding it provides the exact patterns needed to solve global challenges. Changing. I hope everyone is seeing the changes here. I am. Well, if not, you let me know. If it freezes, you guys let me know. Okay. What happened with World War I? well, that is why I have a hand raised here. Senator of Arizona.
Madam, your screen is not visible.
You cannot see my
It says that it is paused.
okay. So I don't know why. Hector, can you see the historical processes slide?
Yes, we're in the historical processes.
Yes.
Slide. Okay, so we're good. Thank you. Okay, so World War II happened because of the outcome of World War One. Okay. We have to understand this humiliation, the humiliation on behalf of the Treaty of Versailles, the war guilt clause, the clipping reparations, the territorial laws that caused World War II. So when World War II was over, they had to go into the past and see what went wrong in order to determine what measures they were going to take in order to have a new world order that will not lead to another war, to World War III. Okay. And I have another hand here. Yes, Jimena.
Sorry, I took the. Sorry, la pantalla no me aparece.
I don't know why.
It says you pause the sharing pen. The sharing.
Okay, I don't know why. But okay, let's do something. Let's stop sharing and then I will reshare again. Okay. Maybe we can fix it like that. Okay, share. Are we good now?
Yes. Now it's
Okay.
fine. Oh, I see.
You can see it. Okay, great. So, Rwanda genocide happened because European imperialism. In 1994, Rwanda genocide was a direct result of European imperialism, which transformed flexible social classes into rigid ethnic castes. Belgian colonizers used scientific racism to declare a Tutsi minority, okay, a minority that was superior, okay, like a foreign race, institutionalizing this division via compulsory ethnic identity cards that they did in 1933. Tutsi elites to rule the Hutu majority. These two ethnies that used to live separately, they were forced to live together, and somehow they were given, the Tutsis were given the category of being better than the Hutus. And then later, when the Belgians were forced by the international system to concede their independence to the Rwandans, then, well, we all saw what happened, okay? They empowered the Hutus before leaving the country, and then the Hutus, well, being fractured, weaponized the state structure to go after the Tutsis, causing the massacre. So in order to understand a genocide, we have to go into the past. Raphael Lemkin, he was a person, the lawyer that came up with this concept of genocide after what happened with the Holocaust in World War II. And in order to understand what had happened, he had to go into the past. So he had to compare it with what happened with the Armenians in 1914 to 1917. So he came up with this categorization of how a genocide happens and why it happens and how to stop it. Okay, not that the international system has been very effective on that behalf, but at least we had a path to go, and at least we have an idea of why genocides happen and how they come to happen. Asian, American, and African borders are a result of colonial processes. Modern borders across Africa, Asia, and America are they're the direct result of European colonialism, which drew artificial lines to divide resources rather than respect human geography. In 1984, the Berlin Conference took place in Africa, and well, they used basically geometric coordinates. That is why many of the borders of Africa look like that because they were traced based on coordinates rather than on territories, respecting territories that they were already given to people or were already shared by people. Okay, we see the same with the Sykes-Picot Agreement in the Middle East and in America. Okay, in America with the Spanish and the Portuguese and how they administrate the boundaries. Ideologies come from successful characters, for good or for bad. Charismatic leaders or these personalities are highly effective in weaponizing, escalating, and popularizing ideologies. If we want to understand populism now, we have to go into the past and we have to read what happened there. If we can't read what happens with right wings and left wings, then we have to go into the past. And we can also understand the consequences of letting these charismatic leaders go ahead with their ideas, with their very dangerous ideas. Revolutions don't evolve in a day. They are processes that start decades or even centuries ago. They are never spontaneous events, but the explosive culmination of long-term historical processes, structural rot, ideological shifts that build over decades. According to revolutionary theory, a state must undergo a prolonged period of, let's say, instability, demographic pressure, and lit fragmentation before the regime can collapse. So as we can see, history matters. History matters a lot to understand our present. I'm going to change. Ian, can you see the change of my slide? Is it
Yes, don't
okay?
worry. It's okay.
Okay, perfect. So, diagnosing today's crisis via historical patterns. And I give you an example here, an example that you guys are very fond of. It has to do with United Nations. The impasse of UN Security Council and the fracturing of alliances like NATO or trade blocs. We are all wondering nowadays, and I have here, I enlisted the most recent events in which we were expecting, to see a little bit more of action on the Security Council behalf, like the Syrian civil war or the Gaza conflict that has been exacerbating since 2023 till present days. Ukraine war also 2022 till present days, and Venezuela. So why is the Security Council not acting? What's happening there? So we go into the past and we have to analyze and we have to see the danger that United Nations is facing now, which is our more closest example of an international organization like United Nations. Of course, the League of Nations that was created after World War I. And that was a total failure, demonstrated because World War II happened. So the lesson that we have there is that the League of Nations failed because it lacked an enforcement mechanism, and major powers withdrew when decisions didn't favor them. Are we seeing that happening nowadays? Totally. Okay, so the historical failure is the blueprint of the United Nations. If we want to recover the United Nations and we want to have it as the organization that monitors peace, that works as an international organization created and meant to preserve peace and control conflicts and open a dialogue between nations, we have to see the dangers that we're facing now in the past. We have other examples. We have pandemics. We have territorial disputes, resource depletion, forced migration, environmental degradation, economic crisis, job displacement, generational winter. If you don't know what that is, it's the fact that we now in many countries we have generations not wanting to have babies, which mean that we're going to have a lot of elder people, but very few young people, which, as you can imagine, is a big problem. For example, to understand that, we have to go into China and see what happened during the period of Deng, when this policy of the only child policy happened in order to control population. Okay, and now it inverted the demographic pyramid in China, causing that nowadays they have to fix it. So we have a lot of examples of situations, I don't want to say problems, but situations that are happening nowadays that are connected, directly linked to our past, and that we can find solutions in our past. One of the most important challenges that we're facing nowadays is the technological revolution. And yes, artificial intelligence is it's a phenomenon that we are happy to have it, but also we're a little bit scared, okay? Especially grown-ups like me, teachers like me, see it as a danger to knowledge. So we consider that this is a major breakthrough in mankind history, but it is not the first time that this has happened. That technology has been very, very scary and also very, very interesting. We saw that with the steam engine, and we saw that with electricity as well. Okay, those two technologies changed the world completely, but also, as marvelous as they were, they also represented a challenge to the, for example, to human labor, okay, human labor replacement in the old days versus knowledge work in this era. So yes, it is scary, but it is also something that is bringing us to develop some resilience strategies. Artificial intelligence is a general purpose technology. It transforms every sector of the global economy, okay, such as steam engine and electricity did under times. Manual labor has been targeted by automation since then. Okay, I always use this example with my students in my class that before the Industrial Revolution, for example, if you wanted to get a jacket or a coat, you had to go to tailor, and the tailor would manufacture this for you, and you will pay the tailor a good amount of money for that jacket, and you will only have one because they were expensive. But you were also providing for the tailor, and the tailor had to work. But then later, after the Industrial Revolution happened, tailors were not that needed because they were manufacturing coats in a very easy, cheap, fast way. So the same amount of money that you use to buy one coat can buy you 5 or 6 coats, okay? Leaving no other chance to that tailor to go to work for the factory instead of having his own business, okay? So that was a challenge, okay? And that was as important as now we are worried about what happens if I am studying, I don't know, any career, think of it, any career, architecture, or I don't know, to become a lawyer, or to become, I don't know, a doctor. May I be substituted by a machine? Well, let me try to change. Oh my God. Okay. We have to go into the past. How did society manage this displacement? Well, also there were very interesting things that happened for mankind when these breakthroughs came along. Okay, throughout the rise of social safety nets, for example, good and positive things that happened were the trade unions. Okay, before the Industrial Revolution and during the Industrial Revolution, instead there were no respect for the labor rights. Okay, so after it, labor protection came, and modern welfare state happened because that, and trade unions happen. And if we want to go to education, we see job specialization, public education, vocational skills. If you were a tailor's son, you were going to be a tailor. Okay, that was no other, there was no other route for you. But then after that, there were other possibilities. So very good and positive things happen after these major breakthroughs. We have to be very smart and intelligent here. I have a data here that I wrote this from an article I was reading. According to Statista Market Insights, the generative artificial intelligence market will represent $207 billion by 2030. So that only means that we're going to switch some jobs, we're going to change them for others. So you guys can study other ways of making money in the future. For example, you can be a data privacy manager. That's going to be a job, okay, a well-paid job. Artificial intelligence trainer, a robotics process automation specialist. This one I like, artificial intelligence solutions architect, and many others, just to give you examples, okay? So many things, positive things are happening when thinking and dealing with artificial intelligence. The lesson for today, dealing with artificial intelligence and new technology requires proactive state-level reskilling. That's something that's going to happen. We have to, we are not fighting artificial intelligence. We are inserting it in the way that we work, in the way that we learn, in the way that we interact. Structural retaining, updated educational frameworks. We cannot pretend to teach in the same way that we used to. If I started being a teacher 25 years ago, if someone would have told me those days that I was going to be teaching on a computer with a camera on, I would say, you're crazy. That's never going to happen. And here I am. Okay, new legislations, job market restructure. We can do it. We just have to look into their past and find answers. Competition that will foster innovation and drive progress. Specialization, new ways of specializing, new jobs, workforce transformation. Yes, some works are going to disappear, but some others are going to create. You have an image there. Bernie Sanders was posting this on his Facebook account. He was really worried because these ads were all around the United States. One of them, I think it was even in Times Square, New York. And it says, stop hiring humans, from this company called Artsen. This is a dangerous thing, okay? We are not substituting humans. We are just reskilling them, okay? We have to think it like that. Okay, so the other, because I wish I had time to speak more about more challenges, but I only give you two examples. And I have a third one I wanted to talk a little bit about, which is a pandemic, okay? But well, we don't have a lot of time to talk about pandemic, but also think about pandemic. When the pandemic of 2020 happened, it was not like the first time that pandemics ever happened to us. The closest example that we had was on the 1918 pandemic, the Spanish influenza, and some things were recovered from then. They had an example there, or they had like an event that was very, very important in the city of Philadelphia. They decided to ignore the pandemic that was going on, and they decided to go on and organize a parade. And basically all the city was on the parade. And after that, well, the cases, the number of cases escalated dramatically. And then in St. Louis, another city in the United States of America, they decided to shut down everything. They went to lockdowns. Okay, so the governor there said, no, everyone is going to go into their houses. And the cases were really controlled. So this was part of the historical analysis that scientists had to do, and that is how they come with the immediate answer, because we didn't know anything about COVID at the beginning. We didn't have a vaccine. We didn't have really the cause of, or we were not very sure about how contagious it was and how we could get it or not. So as you recall, the immediate action was lockdown. We went to lockdown everywhere in the world, okay? And a lot of the reaction of what happened there, including talking about supply chain and other facts, come from that pandemic and other situations like SARS or like MERS or influenza in the 2000s. So another example, climate change. The Anthropocene, I love that image that you have there because that represents the Anthropocene. This is the geological era in which man has controlled climate, change weather, and modify the structure. We are the only species that has been able to do that. Okay, so we are going through the Anthropocene. Finding answers in the past can help us prevent future disasters. And we have here, I give you here 2 examples, okay? The Maya collapse of the 8th and 9th century. The Maya did not simply vanish. That is the question. What happened with the Mayans? Okay, Mayans, if you don't know because you're not Mexicans, well, they're a very important culture that live here in Mexico in the peninsula of Yucatan. Exactly in the place where the meteor hit and killed the dinosaurs and created the Ice Age. Well, this very big, amazing civilization just disappeared. So it didn't simply disappear because of a mega drought. Their collapse was driven by a systematic rigidity. Instead of changing their agricultural habits and cooperating, rival Mayan city-states increased warfare, deforested more land for monumental architecture, and depleted their remaining reserves. So that caused eventually the end of their civilization. And we have another example, the Easter Island, the Rapa Nui, deforestation due to religion. So as the population grew on the island, ecosystem and resources became critically scarce. And they are a very good example of systematic rigidity. Instead of halting deforestation to save their soil and build fishing canoes, rival clans doubled down on their competitive religious system. They cut down the remaining palm trees to transport even larger moa, which are these very big statues that are famous of this region, to signal statues and appease the gods. By the time the trees were completely gone, they could no longer build deep sea canoes to hunt purposes. So they had to face starvation and societally breakdown. And I promise I'm about to finish. So blueprint for successful environmental planning. I'm moving here. Okay, sometimes climate treaties feel impossible to achieve because we rely on the commitment of all the parties for this to happen. History provides us a playbook for successful binding international environmental action. The very good example of this is the Montreal Protocol of 1987. In the 80s, we realized that we messed up, that we have messed up, because suddenly a lot of people started getting skin cancer. So people were like wondering what's going on, what's happening. And they found that there was a big hole in the ozone layer in the area of Australia. So they started studying, scientists, what happened there. And they figured that that hole was caused by certain elements, certain chemicals that we were using, fluorocarbon dioxides. So they came up with this protocol, and because everyone was really scared about this happening, basically a lot of countries gathered together and they signed this protocol. The most important global challenge of the 80s was fixed through this protocol, which meant that countries commit to control their processes of manufacturing certain products that were causing this effect in the earth. The solution came with trade sanctions. If you were not obeying this that you signed in, we were going to cut the trade with you, but also with financial incentives, financial safety nets for poor nations. If you don't have the money to control the problem, we will finance it for you, okay? And well, we are here, so the problems eventually got solved. Now we have a bigger problem. We have the climate change, but that doesn't mean that we cannot find also a way to fix it. How to stop the effects? We know it because we can see into the past. Water management in arid climates. And also we have technology, which is much more than they had in the past. Agriculture resilience and soil restoration, architecture, new ways of building things, new ways of building houses, of building everything, local, regional global programs, education, and policies. We know that societies in the past did not collapse because of climate change. Climate has been changing since the Earth is Earth. But when their political and social systems were too rigid to adapt. We now have more technology, knowledge, and tools to stop it. Preventing failures and replicating success. Okay, it's always there. Final example, very easy. Final example there. After World War I, bad economic crisis managed led to the Great Depression. 20 years later, the Americans learned their lesson. And, well, I give you the example that represents baby boom, because yes, of all the babies that were born there, but also because of all the economic boom the United States had to face after that. So those guys learned their lesson, and they became the most powerful economy in the world. Finally, call to action. 21st century policymakers, scientists, leaders, and young people like you need to consult historians before building the future. You guys need to consult history to build a sustainable future where most first master the blueprints of the past. In closing, our exploration of these global challenges proves that history is not a static archive of the past, but the archive blueprint of our present. From the structural scars of colonial borders across 3 continents to the institutional processes that initiate revolutions and the medical frameworks that save millions during COVID-19, the data is clear. We cannot solve the crisis of the 21st century without understanding the historical forces that engineered them. As we conclude this conference, let us carry forward the understanding that recognizing these deep-rooted patterns is our most powerful tool for anticipating the future and building a more resilient, cooperative global society. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, dear Prof. Mitch. Please, delegates, give a very special applause to our keynote speaker. And now it is time to make some questions. If you have it, please raise your hand. Well, first, Sidika, you have the floor.
First of all, thank you so much for your kind words. The reflection you showed about the history and how it can be, how can we proceed to our daily life and future challenges. It was very thoughtful and critical and brought our sites to how to evaluate and how to overcome the upcoming and the present challenges. While I agree with your statement that electricity and other inventions and technologies have revolved a lot and have showed a lot of different results, but AI transition is something which is totally different from past technologies. So I want your advice that to young leaders, including me and all other presentees, that what you would advise us, because we have seen that AI has been substituting human and their jobs. So what is your thought on that? Do you think it is the statement is right, or it's just a rumor? And what advice you would give to youngsters? Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for your question. Yes, it's a very interesting one because we are all facing this challenge, and I think it's a very scary one. Even grown-ups, you guys are you were born with technology. Even those that were not born with technology are mesmerized by it. We're trying to adapt, we're trying to understand it, but it is so fast, it is happening so fast that is really scary. And I think that the major fear that we have is that we are going to be substituted by artificial intelligence at some point. And that is why it's important to go to the past. Because even though we had never had artificial intelligence in the past, we had other things that were fast, that were amazing, that were challenging, and that changed the world. And they changed it every single time to be a positive, to see a positive change. So what can you guys do? Prepare yourselves. First, be resilient. From you guys, you prepare. You have to come up with this idea, body in a different, you have to learn a different way. You have to, for yourselves, not to lose those abilities that are basically human. I had the fortune to write an article a couple of weeks ago for a magazine here in Mexico, and I was reflecting. The article was basically is a writer, fiction writer, going to be substituted by artificial intelligence, and I was quoting a very interesting writer. I don't know if you know her. She's the most important Latin American writer, female writer. She's Isabel Allende. So I think that you guys should know who she is. If not, you Google her. Well, she was on an interview today. She's 80 years old, right? And she was in an interview, and she said that she was scared because she wrote. She writes a book every year. Okay, she has like this tradition to write a book every year. So she wrote not a book but a story for kids, like a story. And then her son came and asked her, "What are you doing, Mom?" And she said, "I'm writing a story for kids now, not a novel, but a story." And the guy went there to the internet, and he went to, I don't know, ChatGPT or whatever, and he typed, "Give me a story for kids with this and this characters, as if Isabel Allende wrote it." And she said, "Oh my God, the story was exactly the same that the one I wrote." So she was really scared about that, right? But then she started reflecting, and she said something that I'm trying to give you the message. Yes, artificial intelligence can do things as or even better, maybe, than people. But to be a writer is not just words on a piece of paper or on screen. Writers do it because they have a talent. Writers do it because they have experiences, because they had this like magic dust on their minds that brings them to the paper, to help them put on paper all these amazing stories that just talk to them every time they feel compelled to write. So my advice to you is that you force yourselves to learn in a different way, but not lose the abilities that makes us human. Read. Keep reading. I don't care if you read on paper or you read on screen, but read. Write. Use your hands. You guys don't use your hands anymore to write because you have these amazing devices, but do the exercise. I have students of mine here, and they know that I tell them this in my class. Use paper. I am going back to having exams on paper. They have to write on paper. Okay, so force yourselves to keep being. Don't lose those human abilities that are important for your brain, and use technology as far as you can to, do tasks that are not that important, but that are time consuming, like doing presentations. Okay, so that is my advice. You guys are going to have amazing futures, and you will learn different ways of making money through technology, and being specialized through technology in a very different way. Change is human. It's only human, and we are facing just another change in this very long history of mankind.
Thank you so much, Prof. Mitch. And then we continue with the question of Shan Aguilar.
Thank you so much, Hector. And thank you, Mitch, for this conference. I believe that it was really, well, I learned a lot from it. And I also, well, apart from it, I wanted to ask the question about, I I have noticed a lot of like news and stuff of how artificial intelligence is taking over human works and human jobs and a lot of things that are like actresses, actors, writers. But I also do believe that it's still the essence of a human that regards there. But what my question that I wanted to ask is, um, there are a lot of things into things that humans like do that are obviously for humans and stuff, but which things do you believe that absolutely will change with artificial intelligence and that maybe it is better that artificial intelligence comes over, or if there is none, um, the why is it that part?
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, the world is not a static. History is not a static. So this is just a change that we're going on right now. Okay, it could be another one, but this is the one that we're facing now. So yes, of course, some jobs are going to disappear. Okay. I am not very sure. I cannot tell. It would be irresponsible of me to tell you exactly which ones. I have an idea. I have a very clear idea of which jobs may not be there in future come. But for example, I imagine that it's not that we're not going to need accountants, but accountants will have to learn different ways of doing or using technology and in a more efficient way. So it's not that professions are going to disappear. They're just going to execute in a different way. Okay, I receive all the time because where I work at Tec de Monterrey, I am in charge of the students that come first semester students. So that also means that I am also kind of in charge of giving them advice on what to study. And one of the main questions that I get from parents and from students is it really worth it to keep studying law? You know, because probably law is something that's going to disappear. No, law is not going to disappear, not ever. Okay, we will always need lawyers. The only thing is that lawyers now are going to be regulating and doing other stuff. For example, artificial intelligence. Okay, now we have to figure it. We have it there, but we have a big challenge in regulation now. Okay, so yes, it's not that important to learn things that were very important for a lawyer 20 years ago, but now they have to learn a different way. They have to learn through the lens of technology, and they have to regulate technology. Okay, I didn't have time enough to play this to you, but I have a good video that I like from the MIT that is how a car and artificial intelligence can drive a car, and now the technology is there. Okay, we no longer need to drive. We have the technology to have automatization in cars. But why are not they really there? Why don't we have cars like that yet? Not because we don't have the technology, but because we don't have the regulation. How are we going to generate the algorithms to decision making for a car? Okay. For example, if you're going to, if you are driving and you are in this avenue and a couple of elder people are crossing with a red light on, you know, they have the pass, they can go, and on the other side a woman with a little girl is crossing too, but she is with a green light, and you have to run over one of them. Okay, how are you going to tell the algorithm who will it take? So it's a very interesting way of understanding technology. And it is a very interesting way of understanding how am I learning and where am I going to be working when I am older. Maybe I am not an architect, but I am an architect of solutions. Okay. Maybe I am not an accountant, but I am a data analytics I work in data analytics analysis. Okay, so I just have to switch, and that is what happened with Industrial Revolution 1 and 2. Okay, exactly the same. People had to learn other abilities. Yes.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Very well. And I think that I have time for just one question more, if you are okay, Prof. Mitch. Is it
Yeah,
okay?
sure.
Very
Yeah,
well.
sure.
Matilde, you have the word.
Thank you. Excuse me, I'm having internet issues and I'm unable to turn off my camera. Sorry
It's
very
okay.
much. My name is Matilde Saavedra, and first of all, I would like to thank you for all the knowledge you share with us today. Connecting the past with current issues as AI and climate change has truly helped me to see the things from a different perspective. So I have a question. I will starting high school this coming September, and in a few years I will have to choose a major that will shape my entire professional path. You mentioned that reskilling will be key, as the job market will transform very quickly. How can we begin preparing ourselves to continually adapt our skills, rather than remaining at a superficial and ambiguous level of learning? Sorry. Will you recommend any specific tools that that can us help to start using now?
Thank you, Matilda. Very good question. Interesting questions of all you guys. Yes, I recommend you to develop skills. You mentioned it quite well. Develop skills. It doesn't matter what you guys are going to be doing in the future. You will need to be skilled. Okay. And that means you need to be capable of writing, of reading, okay, learning languages. That's always something very recommendable. Learn two, at least, okay? The one that you were born with, and then learn another one, preferably Chinese or English, but learn another language, okay? Those are the skills that you guys are gonna need. It doesn't matter what you are going to be dedicating to. You dedicate to what you want to do. I always tell you that the main way of knowing what do I want to do as a grown up is knowing myself now. What am I good at? Do I like maths? Do I like history? Do I like sports? Do I like, I don't know, biology? Okay. And focus on that. If you want to become a doctor, you need you will use artificial intelligence and technology for sure. You will use it. Okay, now we can grow ears in a petri dish. Of course, we are going to be using technology, but moreover, be skilled. Be skilled in many, many ways. Prepare yourselves for the future. Be curious. Okay, I know this sounds like a mom telling you, but yes, go to Instagram and TikTok once in a while to have fun, but don't focus your knowledge on that. Okay. It doesn't matter what you're interested in. Be interested in something and research in that. Okay. That is the key for success. Do this that you are doing here, guys. Being on Saturday in the morning, listening to conferences, that is giving you something for the future. Okay. Preparing you for your future is that. Be involved in things. Be involved in sports, be involved in politics, be involved in chess, in whatever you want to be involved. People that are involved are people that have future. Okay, that is the best thing I can tell you. It doesn't matter what you want to study. Study what you want to study. If you are skilled, you will have a good job in the future, and moreover, you will be happy doing it.
Well, thank you very much once again for your answer, teacher. I think that you said something that is really important, and I interpret it as the passion. I think that people that are passionate about what they are doing are the people that change the world. So thank you very much once again for everything of the talk. It was really great, and we want to ask you to everyone that is still here to take a photo to take it as a to have a photo of the talk. So everyone, todos los delegados, por favor, prendan sus cámaras. Everyone, please keep the cameras on, sorry. Y por favor, todos, otra vez un fuerte aplauso a nuestra ponente Mitch por su gran plática del día de hoy. Muchísimas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Quiero agradecer el espacio. Un poco, ¿no? Quiero agradecer el espacio. Thank you very much all for being here this evening. Y a todos les vaya muy bien lo que su corazón sigan sus instintos y no se preocupen por la tecnología. La tecnología sirve para acompañarlos, no para sustituirlos. Muchísimas gracias por el espacio, por la conferencia, por la invitación. Me siento muy honrada y bueno, quedo a sus órdenes.
A usted
Muchísimas
por haber
gracias,
asistido.
doctora.
Muchísimas gracias.
Que pase bonita tarde. Thank you so much, bro. Have a good day.